value are the ones that are the least ecologically degraded. So that's just another take on the financial view. And lastly, I'd just like to say, because it's been brought up that you're here to work for, or to represent Saanich residents. And there's a subset of Saanich here who has a certain perspective, but I assure you, there are a lot of Saanich residents who agree with some of the perspectives that I've put forward. And please, even with them not here in the room, they're definitely a quieter voice, but they do exist. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before the next speaker speaks, I'd just like to address the question that was raised earlier. I do my best to pay attention to everything everybody's saying, and I am listening all the time, but there is a lot to juggle. I'm often referring to this iPad with our bylaws, and I'm also often running a timer, just in case the timer up front doesn't start, so that everyone can have a fair chance to speak. So just to give everyone a better idea of what's happening up here, there's a lot of paper, and I'm recording each to speak, and I don't want anyone to have the impression that I'm just here texting away and not listening. I'm very much paying attention. Next speaker, please.
Jared Morrison, 3025 McAnally. I moved to McAnally Road in 1969. My current house structure is not within the EPDA zone. However, I have stone walls, concrete walls, compost bins, storage bunker, boat shed with remnants of a marine rail, cooking area with chimney, and storage sheds, most dating back to the 1920s and all within the designated zone. As a life member of the Sierra Club and as a donor to the Nature Conservancy, I'm gratified to find Saanich Council has developed some environmental sensitivities. However, I'm greatly disappointed that those sensitivities do not extend to property rights. As a pragmatic conservationist, I expect everyone's rights to be respected so that all parties will continue to support and buy into the current policies in the future. While the ideals of the EDPA may be admirable, the execution is an injustice to property owners. Saanich should eliminate the EDPA and its bureaucratic support structure and rely on existing provincial and federal regulations. If you want conservation buffers or conservation easements, buy them, release them, just like you would for a park, for a road, for air rights, or for mineral rights. In the minimum, the EDPA needs to be overhauled. Other speakers have addressed, or hopefully will address, woefully inadequate notification and transparency in actions that are inconsistent with any doctrine of fairness, regulatory overreach and redundancy with the existing provincial and federal regulations, and unnecessary and costly additional bureaucracy. The need for scientific justification by independent third-party credentialed professionals who are not subject to conflicts of interest with the municipality and its staff to identify and inventory truly endangered species that are not already well habituated to humans and their structures. Buffer creep with expanded zones of protection, and loss of property value as a result of reduced buildable area, increased market uncertainty, and unrecorded encumbrances that also impact mortgages and loan covenants for everyone, including many senior citizens. Saanich, in order to promote the EDPA, has a fairly innocuous proposition. Has demonstrated institutional amnesia on it, as represented that property owners may rebuild on existing foundations. While the language in that I have read appears to be benevolent, the real impact lies in the interpretation. A property owner might be able to renovate, rebuild, or add a second story to an existing foundation. However, the problem arises if a structure burns to the ground or is destroyed beyond a certain point. The structural integrity of concrete foundations tends to be destroyed in fires, and structures that are written off are deemed to have no existing foundations. Consequently, any rebuilding effort will have to conform to the most current zoning and building codes. The representations made by Saanich Council and staff as to the ability to rebuild reflect good intention, but they do not reflect history or future interpretation by those who do not have the institutional memory of what was intended. For example, 4039 White Rock Street burned to the ground in the late 1970s, early 80s. The property did not have a drain field for its septic system, and there were no sewers at the time. The owners tried to rebuild and proposed an enhanced septic system with extra storage capacity, but Saanich insisted on an even more exotic system that was at least twice as expensive. My recollection was that the required system represented about 40% of the cost of the rest of the building. Between the insurance money the bank and the cash the owner had, the replacement house could not be built. Sanesh made noise about buying the property but claimed poverty and never purchased it. Ultimately, several years after the fire, the next door neighbor at 4035 purchased the property primarily to protect its views. I've not researched the transaction, but I suspect the buyer acquired the property for a substantial discount. Recently, the owner of 4035 sold the property but still holds 4039. Look at the ESA and EDPA maps. 4039 is almost completely covered by a red zone for Conservation Data Center, Rare Plant, Animal, or Plant Association site, including the original building site coverage. This designation renders the lot virtually worthless and unbuildable, even though a house once stood on the site. To cure this issue, Sanesh needs to explicitly allow rebuilding old, existing, and damaged structures regardless of the type or source of damage or destruction. The EDPA has created some unintended consequences as an authoritarian directive with little input from those affected most. It creates a disincentive for property owners like myself to plant native species or add unrelated improvements such as solar panels that are also environmentally beneficial. The best governance would have been to never pass the EDPA in the first place. Failing its removal, the next best thing is a complete overhaul in a manner that I and many have suggested. That overhaul should include provisions to grandfather existing and damaged structures regardless of cause or damage. Sanesh also needs to identify specific species that are endangered and utilize third-party credentialed biologists or botanists, not some favored biologists or botanists that will do the municipality's bidding to determine the validity of the claims of rare flora and fauna. There should be multiple buffers. There should not be multiple buffers or setbacks, regardless of name or title, so as to allow owners siting options and choices. If the municipality insists on maintaining the restrictions, then buy or lease the rights. Thank you.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak, please come forward.
Janet Stark, 1515 Cedar Glen Road. Sanesh, so our property borders on the Alberg property, and as been noted already previously this evening, that property has been removed from the EDPA. We've lived in our property for 10 years. We've been through 10 springs, and I can absolutely ascertain that the only thing underneath our Gary Oaks is lawn and garden. The only native species that is currently on our property, I have actually planted. So, and there's clear evidence which has been presented previously by other speakers this evening that natives or invasive species run rampant, and there's lots of examples in our neighborhood, including Mount Doug Park, where there are volunteer organizations on a weekly basis trying to clear out the ivy and the broom and the blackberry. So, and my last comment is simply that I don't think you get a council full of people here tonight, and that with this amount of heat, unless there's a problem. So my suggestion to you again, as has already been said, that if you're looking to propagate or foster behavior that you want more of, which is the stewardship and the recreation of native ecosystem, that you actually need to provide positive incentive rather than telling people what they cannot do on their property. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Please come forward.
Yes, Robin Burrow.
Mr. Bell, you already had a chance to speak when you spoke.
I spoke, I believe, to the Rainbow Road property. So is this not just general comments as well?
This is on the same topic, so.
Well, I didn't want to bring up other areas of valuation beyond the Rainbow property, so I just wanted to add a couple more comments in terms of valuation of property.
I'll have to defer to the council if they want to change with practice. Otherwise, I think we'd have to save your comments for the town hall meeting.
So the answer is no?
Councilor Plant?
Mr. Mayor, if it's appropriate, I would move that I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Burrow.
Mr. Burrow be given an additional 5 minutes to speak to council.
Will someone second that? Seeing none, I'm sorry, Mr. Burrow. I apologize for that. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward. All right, thank you. Have a race to the microphone here.
Your Worship and members of council. My name is Peter Lewis. I live on Duke Street in Saanich, 1212. My property backs onto an undeveloped natural area in Playfair Park. More than half of it is within the EDPA. Some of it is ESA, and a lot of it is buffer. The ESA area includes legitimate Garry Oak ecosystem, plus Garry Oaks over lawn and garden on rubble fill. And the buffer area includes grass and garden over rubble fill with no Garry Oaks. So I would submit that there are some mapping errors there in having it all in the EDPA. Many of my neighbors are in the same situation, but have much larger areas of Garry Oak over lawn and garden. I've carefully read the staff report on the two properties at issue tonight, and a lot more. I want to offer my views because I think that this is probably precedent-setting for other properties with Garry Oaks over lawn and garden, including mine. Even where the proposed development is only landscaping, building a fence, or expanding a vegetable garden. The EDPA bylaw as written doesn't talk about council's supposed intention, quote, to protect SCI polygons regardless of their condition, unquote, as it says in the staff report. It talks about protecting, quote, areas of highest biodiversity, unquote, and about sensitive ecosystems that are, quote, fragile remnants of specialized ecosystems with high biodiversity, unquote, as identified in the Sensitive Ecosystems Inventory 2002 version. Garry Oaks over lawn and manicured garden are not fragile remnants. The provincial expert on sensitive ecosystems at the time of the SEI, as Ted Lee has stated, said that such areas would not have been included once field checked. I would argue that like agricultural lands, they are built environments, not natural environments. And I think what Mrs. Bijold said illustrates very much a built environment. If you do include all the areas of lawn and manicured gardens under Garry Oak trees, you will add a huge number of properties to the thousands already affected. The trees are already protected by the tree protection bylaw. Now, the issue of low value or degraded Garry Oak systems and how to deal with them, as discussed in the staff report, is important, and I believe Saanich does need to give it further consideration. Of course, as has been said already, that consideration should start with Saanich's own properties. Saanich has not spent much time or money preserving and restoring its own natural areas, the vast majority of which are low value. Much of the work that has been done on Saanich property is being done by volunteers, and restoration for them has been hugely time-consuming. Ted mentioned what Colleen O'Brien has done in Playfair Park, behind my house, just a small part of Playfair Park. She's been working there since 1997, and as Ted mentioned, spent 5,000 hours over the past 5 years for us, and thinks she has 5 years to go. And the biggest problem she's having is with invasive grasses. And when we have worked on our lower level, the part that is legitimately part of the ESA, that's been the big problem we've had trying to do anything about it. It's been invasive grasses. I don't think you can expect private property owners to spend 5,000 hours over 5 years trying to restore their properties. There has been mention of property values, and there's one aspect of it that I wanted to refer to. There have been statements made that being near natural areas enhances property values. And I would like to emphasize that those statements talk about properties that are near high-value natural areas, not properties that are in high-value natural areas. There's a lot of evidence that those properties have negative effect because of the natural values. Why? When covenants are negotiated with owners, other than forced covenants, why do covenant holders get tax breaks? Saanich needs to find a way to work with property owners rather than against them. In this situation, I too believe that carrots will beat sticks every time. I think restricting normal use of Garry Oak over lawn and garden is bad strategy. Not only does it punish property owners for no good reason, it diverts Saanich from focusing its own resources on areas that are truly important and can be realistically protected and that could potentially be restored in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
My name is John Berglund. I live at 4791 Timber Place, and I am a developer. I've bought tens of millions of dollars worth of property in a lot of different places, none in Saanich, but I can assure you that the EDPA definitely degrades the value of properties. Developers buy things based on risk, and the more bureaucratic red tape that is involved in the purchase of a property, the price goes down significantly. And I would suggest that the EDPA is a big, big red flag, and it would certainly affect my purchasing any property in Saanich.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Kevin Cudahy. I live at 2825 Tudor Avenue.
What was your last name again, please?
Cudahy.
Cudahy, thank you.
I think that I admire the bravery of the people coming up here who are maybe not one of us homeowners who are really annoyed. But one thing I heard that scares me even more is that to truly know if my property needs to be protected, I need to keep an eye. I need to have somebody watching it for at least a year, if not longer. You know, I think that further shows the burden that you've put on all of us as homeowners. That you know, I can't be expected to wait a year if I'm planning on putting in a deck or wanting to build a play gym for my kids. That's just not something that we as homeowners can expect. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. The gentleman from the back. The gentleman from the back like to take the front seat here. So come on. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I hadn't planned to talk, but I can't resist it. My name is Herma Rutten. I live at 4024 Malton Avenue with my husband Bill, who's walked out after the lady who didn't appear to be a homeowner was making first pitch. In any case, I'll be short and sweet. We bought our property 8 years ago. We're from Ontario. We were completely ignorant about what goes on in BC, know nothing about native flowers. One thing, I would like to have a picture of what they look like, in case I happen to step on one and show it. But in any case, I found out about being in the EDPA because we're in the buffer zone, apparently. I didn't know what that was. We live next door to a property that's a big property, and it has a covenant, and I don't know what that was, but it's bad news for me because I'm in the buffer zone. And I don't know what there is to be buffered because there's a 20-foot fence, cedar fence between them and us, plus a fence. And it's only 1/3 of my property, but what's on that 1/3 is my driveway, my garage, my laundry room, my kitchen, my eating area, and a path to the back. There's no lawn, there's no tree. So why am I in a sensitive eco area? Why would I be there except because of the designation of being in a buffer zone? So I'm not happy about that. And that's all I can say. I'm probably not the first or the last, but this whole buffer thing and this you know, it's something that seems to cry out for restrictive measures. And the one thing I'd like to know is, if I had a fire in my kitchen, which is in a buffer zone, would I be able to go to my insurance company and get it fixed? Or another thing is, will they assess the properties that are in the EDPA as a result of being in it at a lower value as we get statements every year that tell you what it's worth, and will that go down? I don't know. And will my taxes go down? Will I get any compensation if I can't sell it for what it's worth? That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, my name's Tim Pilkington. I live at 1517 Cedar Glen Road. And my back property borders the Alberg farm. And apparently my property is in the EDP from a tree that is on another property, so I'm in a 10-meter buffer zone. And the buffer zone is basically grass, my vegetable garden, and my kids' playground. So I had one of your staff members come over and have a look at it, and I just wanted to know about the Alberg property, and they wouldn't tell me whether it was in or out, so now I found out that the Alberg property is out of the EPA, so I'm just having a struggle with this one tree, so it's like a third of a tree that goes into my property, like a piece of pizza, and it stops at the Alberg property line, so I just having a hard time with that, so that's basically all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Hey, my name's Art Bickerton on West Burnside Road. Gotta tell you, I'm really glad that the provincial government went ahead with the Auditor General of the municipalities. If I was going to build a house or have somebody come and say, should I start a business in Saanich? I'd say no, run for the hills, because this is part of your economic plan. This is terrible. I've heard the stories of what's happening to the people. I am now retired, thank goodness. My pay never changes now, but my taxes go up every year, and yet I just wonder what next, what new plan are you going to start coming after us on our property? If EDPA people show up in my yard, I'm asking, please don't come because you're not welcome. We have ALR, we're outside the urban containment boundary, we're on sewer, or a septic field, we're on a well. Every plan that comes our way, you guys turn it down. And I'm really, if this is the plan for Saanich, it's a bad plan. When the sewers finally get built, maybe in my lifetime, I won't be able to afford to stay where I am, even though I'm not on sewers. But you guys keep jacking it up, the prices, these crazy plans. EDPA should not exist. Listen to the biologists, and unfortunately, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, the government itself is going to look at this and think, what are you guys doing in Saanich? This is embarrassing, and I hear all across the country stories about Saanich. And I'm a taxpayer. There's apparently only one taxpayer, and I guess I'm him or them, and I'm going broke. You guys will all do well. You will have pensions. You'll do well. But me and some of these elderly people, we're going to have to move out because we can't afford you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, and staff members. My name is Haji Charania. I reside at 757 Genevieve Road. This evening I'm speaking for North Quadra Community Association. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to recognize Mr. and Mrs. Webb and Mrs. Bijol as long-term residents of North Quadra area, and personally my dear friends. I have a lot of respect and regards for them. By this presentation, I mean no disrespect to them or their families. In response to Mrs. Bijol's comments here, I've seen that property for the last 40-odd years. Those Gary Oak trees are still standing, and they're just immaculate, in my opinion. So to begin with, we want to thank the planner for very well articulated and well-reasoned report providing recommendation to council to accept option 1. This report was passionately debated at our executive meeting last Thursday, and there was an overwhelming support to accept option 1. We believe the planner's recommendation to council is sound and well justified under current situation. While different biologists have presented different opinions, we support the opinions in favor of EDPA Atlas prepared by SANI staff. It's more of a microscopic view of the provincial guidelines. To do otherwise could eliminate almost all of the properties from environmental sensitive inventory. That would make EDPA Atlas and the EDPA bylaw ineffective and absolutely useless. We do not think the past council intended that outcome when they enacted the EDPA bylaw in 2012. We think the past council intended to protect the environmental sensitive polygons, retaining Gary Oak trees, stands, outcrops, an economic system, an ecosystem for their ecological value. We understand both Gary Oak Ecosystem Recovery Team and Gary Oak Meadow Preservation Society have supported the environmental sensitive area and preservation of ecosystem. However, what is most important for all of us is the opinion and support for option 1 expressed by Dr. Nancy Turner, a Freeman of Saanich, Order of British Columbia recipient, and an internationally distinguished ethnobotanist and ethnoecologist at UWIC. In addition, Ms. Deborah Kern of Environmental Law Center at UWIC has lent her valuable support to EDPA Atlas and recommended option 1. We are extremely grateful to them for caring for the environment and taking the time to write to Saanich Council, urging Council to accept the planner's recommendation. If you remove these properties from EDPA Atlas, preempting the process that is currently underway, we are afraid you will set a wrong precedent and send a wrong signal to other property owners. We also note that the subject properties on the south slope of Christmas Hill are contiguous to the EDPA protected area and the adjoining natural park to the east of these properties. Removing these properties from EDPA Atlas would cause irreversible harm to the environmental continuity. And finally, we note the second bullet under the recommendation 1 would encourage the property owners to work with the staff to explore existing EDPA exemption 14 and 15. That means by consolidating 2 properties, and the current property owners could get about 6 RS6 lots. Also maybe there may be opportunity to do some townhome type of development. These lots could be economically serviced from Rainbow Street. There will be less impervious road and driveways, and dwellings will be towards Rainbow Street, and the backyards will be protected through covenant or the no-build zone. Mr. Mayor and councillors, We see absolutely no compelling reason to remove the properties for EDPA Atlas now. Let the process continue as per the third bullet under the option 1. We urge Council to accept planner's recommendation, option 1. Thank you. And at the end of the process, there may be some refining and the remapping which might come about as a result of the process. But currently, I think you should accept the option 1. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to this item? Please come forward.
Karen Harper, 3430 Bon Air. Tonight I have heard that the EDPA is based on bad science and bad mapping. I have heard that people have spent thousands of dollars in order to try and find out their status within the EDPA. Fundamentally, I would support, first of all, I support the withdrawal of those two properties from the EDPA. But having said that, there's a fundamental flaw furthermore in the EDPA, which is very simply that